I want to ask you how, since we now have a track record with the Violence Against Women Act, how has criminal justice reacted, and is it better now than it was? And is it an opportunity to get even better?
Unfortunately, Mark, um, so unfortunately, as we've seen across the nation, and the failures of the justice, particularly the Western justice system. So we saw this in the 70s and 80s, where police officers just were not responding. In many tribal communities, there's just not the officers to respond, so there's no law enforcement response, particularly to violence against Native women. But even where there is a law enforcement response, especially when it's a non-tribal law enforcement response, if it's the federal or state and local response, the justice system just fails. The response is inadequate. Um, there's still a lot of victim blaming. If there's any alcohol or substance abuse involved, um, she is blamed for that. Child Protective Services is called. Children are often removed. And so for those reasons, women won't call law enforcement because they don't want the threat of having their children removed. So there's so many barriers, I think, to this law enforcement response that we see across Indian country, that to continue to push that when it's almost the same thing that we see from 35 years ago to today. So that's why we say when the justice system fails women, all they have are advocates, shelters, and those advocacy services. And when we have fewer than 60 of them in the entirety of Indian country, including Alaska, there's no surprise to all of us that work with Indian tribes why there are the rates of missing and murdered. There's not the support that the women need in the tribal communities.